Hey guys, I'm Evan. Welcome to Country View Acres. Today I'm going to start putting the Allis Chalmers tractor, the D17, back together, and we're going to start at the back of the tractor with the lift arm assembly. So this here is the lift arm assembly, and we've got it all cleaned up and it is ready to reassemble. We got to put everything back on the inside first before we come out to the tractor. So one of the first things that goes in here is actually going to be one of these lift arm shafts right here, and it slides in the end. But before we do that, we've got O-rings we need to put in here, and that's going to seal this so it doesn't leak oil. So behind this O-ring, there's actually a bronze bushing, and I've opted to not replace it. It looked like it was in good shape. So I've got a little bit of hydraulic oil here, and I'm just going to go ahead and lubricate the O-ring and the bushing so that everything goes together easier. I can just easily put this in there. There we go. Oh, when she goes, she goes. So you can see we've got a hole drilled in the spline shaft right there, and that has to line up with this yoke right here. So we got to make sure that we have them lined up. And then we also have a couple washers that's got to slide on here. Spacers, really. So now we've got this roll pin that's got to drive through there and lock it all together. So I've got another spacer that goes on this side. This is really just to take the play out of this, so the shaft can't slide back and forth. There we go. We've got another roll pin for this side. So I'd explained in an earlier video that this bracket, they had welded it on there. They've got brace welded here, and that's all because this point right here where you bolt to broke off the casting. So they welded all of this bracket on. And I think this was the whole reason why I had trouble getting this off the tractor. So from this point of view, we are looking right down the top of this bracket that they have welded onto the lift arm assembly. And as we look at that, you can see this bracket actually sticks out farther than the face here that bolts on the back of the tractor. And that's because this sits up inside of a pocket. There's a little pocket that this sits up inside of. So when you try to slide this off of the pins straight back, this hits. So what I want to do, normally this bracket would just come off, but now that it's welded, it's in the way. So I want to just basically chamfer this edge or grind this edge down a little bit, round it over, and then hopefully we round that over enough, this will slide on and off the tractor a lot easier. So what I'm going to use is a carbide burr, and these are definitely the way to go. They'll take the steel off way quicker than like a grinding stone. So the next thing to put together is the hydraulic cylinder that moves this lift arm up and down. And this is the top of it. Got a pin here to go in. So this tractor has a bunch of these older lock rings. And they're not the snap rings that you normally would have with a couple holes drilled in them where you use snap ring pliers. You actually have to have a different set of pliers for these rings. So you have to have a set of these lock ring pliers. Some people call them like a duckbill plier because of the shape at the end. But they got grippers on the outside of the plier instead of on the inside. And you just basically use those to grab the lock ring and then spread it open. Now this set I bought off of Amazon, and it's already wobbly and loose. And I actually had somebody send me a set. So one of our subscribers, David, actually sent us this set in the mail. I think it's an older set. It's a nice set. It's actually chrome, just like a crescent wrench would be. And you can see the gripper cut into the outside of the jaw there. And what we're going to do is we're going to be using this set today to be able to grab these lock rings and be able to open them up and lock our pins in place. Oh yeah, look at that. There we go. Good to go. So this here is the other side of the hydraulic cylinder, but before we can actually put these two halves together, we need to go ahead and put new O-rings or new seals down inside of here. So this is a 3-piece seal. It has 2 flat washers and then 1 regular O-ring. And then basically you put the flat washers on the outside, O-ring in the middle, and then that all has to go inside of that groove. There's one. There's 2. I don't know if there'll be room for the third one. Try to make sure these are pushed back all the way. This last one's going to be a very tight fit. There we go, all in there. All right, I've got hydraulic oil all over everything to help this go together. Hit it with a oh my gosh, that is a very, very tight cylinder. Now this hydraulic hose has to go through a hole in the casting, and it comes out up here. So attached to this hose would be the transport valve, and then that would bolt onto the surface, but I actually don't have that. I don't have that ready yet, so what I'm thinking about doing is just putting a vice grip on here and just kind of guarantee that this hose doesn't slide back inside. So that's everything that I need to do to the lift arm assembly, at least for now. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the back of the tractor. I've got a couple things to do there, and then we're finally going to be to the point where we're going to try to get this mounted back on the tractor. So I've got a 1/2-inch tap here, and I just want to clean out all of these threads so that all these bolts will go in a lot easier when we do this. So my D17 is a Series 1, and I could not find the exact gasket for here. Now I did find a gasket that was for a later series D17, and it's not a perfect match. It does, I think it will work. The gasket actually sticks out into the housing about a 1/4 of an inch on this side, but the rest of the holes, the alignment pins, everything lines up everywhere else. So I think we're going to trim this gasket and make it match. So I'm just going to take a Sharpie, and we are going to mark the back side of this with a Sharpie, and then we will trim this down to the proper size. And this is like a wire reinforced gasket. It's got like a screen material embedded in it, so it is kind of a specialized gasket. So this is a fairly rigid gasket. I'm not sure what the right thing to do to cut it is. I'm going to try 10 snips first, since it's got that wire inside of it. I actually think this is going to work. That worked. Let's go ahead and put it back on, and that looks a lot better. In fact, there's probably a little bit I could trim right there. I've got some Permatex Super High Tack gasket sealant. That's what I'm going to use to seal this gasket. I'm going to put it on both sides. I'm not sure whether I should have spread that Super High Tack out on the gasket, or whether I should have just left it, you know, beat it up so it spread itself out. Does that make sense? I don't know. I think we're to the point of trying to bolt it together. So this hydraulic cylinder has to pin underneath the differential, and that's going to be the tricky part. Oh man, I had it earlier, and I lost it. There we go. Now you stay there. No. Trying to align that pinhole. And then this pin goes in there. All right, the hydraulic cylinder is now pinned. Now I just got to get the back of it bolted up. Come on, where you at? There we go. Yes, it is on there. Oh, that was a lot easier than taking it apart, that's for sure. Let's go ahead and get some bolts in this thing. So I'd say it was probably at least a year ago. I had a subscriber send me this Tecton torque wrench, and it's a very nice torque wrench. I've never had a chance to actually show it on the channel before, but first Tecton tool I've ever had, and they seem to be pretty good. I'm going 50 foot-pounds. I couldn't find anywhere that said what the right torque was, so I just kind of went off what a grade 5 bolt is. It's around 57, so I'm just going 50. So now that we got the lift arm assembly all mounted, we can go ahead and put the PTO shaft back in. So the PTO shaft is about 4 feet long, and it goes in under the lift arm assembly, goes all the way through the transmission, actually goes up to the power director, which is up here by the clutch pedal. But before I can put that in there, I've got a brand new bearing that's going to go on this end. So we'll go ahead and use our lock ring pliers again. And we've got one lock ring that goes on the back side of the bearing. So here is my old bearing. It is a 1207. This is a Timken bearing. Here is my new bearing. It is a national bearing made in Germany, and it's 1207. And it has got 2 sets of ball bearings in here. It's definitely a little bit different, but it's basically the same part number. So it should work. Well, I guess before I put it in the hydraulic press, I will see if I can push it on with my weight. And that is going to be a negative. Well, this is actually too long to fit in the hydraulic press. So hopefully I can get it in this way using the vise and a bearing separator. And one more locking ring. So I gotta be careful here, do this by feel, but there's a seal on the other side of the transmission that I gotta find. There we go. Oh, yeah. So the bearing isn't in all the way yet, so I'm going to try to pull it in with the bolts that hold the outer seal plate. See if that works. It's definitely a little bit tighter. Oh, there she went. Hey, there she went in. I think it was just wasn't lining up straight. All right, got to take this back off because we got to put a seal in here. So this is the old seal here, and this is the new seal that I bought. And this is the only one that didn't match up. You can see, hopefully you can see, it's about 1/8 of an inch shallower. It's not quite as deep. Same outer diameter, same inner diameter. It's just not quite as thick as this one is. Now I think this will still work just fine. I can go ahead and I can press this in here, and it'll just go in a little farther. But the good thing about this is easy to pull back off and change if this ever leaks. But this is the only one that I have that's not quite the exact same dimensions. It definitely seats a lot deeper. If this ends up leaking, I'll see if I can get one of these factory ones, but we'll try this one out for now. So on the back of this, there is an O-ring I need to put on to seal around the plate itself. There we go. So it definitely feels good to finally start putting the Allis Chalmers tractor back together. It's been in here for over a year now, and I'm ready to finally get this all put together and get it out of the workshop. So I still need to clean up the transmission section here. I need to get all the paint and grease off of it and get it ready so it is ready to paint. And then I've got a few other things to clean up, and then I can put the final drives and the axles together, and then I get those mounted on the tractor. So I'm hoping within the next week or so, we'll be putting the axles and everything back on here. So it does feel good to finally be to this step in the process of putting everything back together. And I will put all the parts in the description down below in case there's somebody that comes along later and they're wanting to know what the parts were. But I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.